And we are back here on our podcast channel. Thank you again. We have an amazing guest today. I'm super, super excited to introduce her. She is a Christian writer, dating expert, certified life coach, and a wife. It's Miss Lori Beth. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
We're good. We're good. We're so honored to have you here on our channel and just hear your insight on so many other topics for the Christian dating. And I'm so excited to hear. And I follow her Instagram, guys. It's amazing. She does motivational posts all the time, and it's really helpful to me and insightful to me. And we just love to hear what she has to say about all these things. So we're just gonna get right into it. The first thing is we wanted to ask you how to like set up helpful and healthy boundaries when dating. Like if you meet a guy, I don't know, at Starbucks or something, what would you say in terms of the boundaries setting that up? Like, is it too soon to come over? When is the right time dating and asking the important questions just to get your expertise on that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, first of all. And I think the answer can be different based on a few things. So sometimes the guy is just really slowly wanting to get to know you, even on maybe like a friendship level. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe you're just a little bit interested, but you're not sure if it's going to be a relationship or serious. And you're just, gathering who is this person, and do I enjoy spending time with them? And I feel like in that sense, it's good to just do things that you both like to do. And a lot of that I would recommend is like public things because you don't really know them yet, right? So you want to be careful, you want to be smart. Things like going for a walk, going for a hike, going out to eat, like, a day somewhere, just like fun together, I think is good. I would say like things like coming over, you want to save that until you really build trust with that person and truly know like what they're about, who they are, their background, and things like that. Because for us as women, we have to be careful. We just have to protect ourselves and just be smart. So I would say like even when my husband and I were in the dating phase, like our first dates were just like fun, like bowling and stuff. And I feel like the coming over part didn't even really come until we were like a little more seriously interested in each other. And like, okay, I know I really like you. He really likes me. We kind of see something going on here. Okay, now we can kind of come over and meet whoever and do that. But I would say like keep it informal, public, and just fun at first.
Yeah. That's really interesting because I feel like so many people I know, like it's so easy. Like they'll text the guy or whatever, and he'll be like, "Hey, do you want to just do like a movie night?" And it's always like straight to like come over 1st. It's like, what about dating or like you said, taking your time and doing something fun? And like I've even heard a perspective from a guy say, "Well, how do I know I want to spend money on you or something like that?" Which is odd to think about or say right to someone, but for some reason they have that perspective. Like, well, I have to see if I want to spend money instead of taking those steps to get to know you in a public setting, like you said. But that, I feel like the Netflix, do you think that kind of like sets people back if they start from just Netflixing and just chilling like right there from the beginning? Because now it's like you're stuck in that space and they don't want to go out because they're comfortable already. Is that like, would you say like that's how it
Yeah,
is?
I think you said it's kind of backwards. Like I feel like kind of like I said, like that whole hanging out at home, we didn't do that until we were like serious with each other. And I feel like even like if a man would say, I don't know if I want to spend money on you, but for a woman, we could say, well, I don't know if I'm comfortable enough with you to like let you in my space to see where I
Yeah.
live. Like that's my space, that's personal. And when you're dating, it's like you are gonna spend money on that person. It's just it's like you
Okay.
don't
Yeah.
so it's like you kind of have to know that's the way you know if you're going to like someone by spending time with them. But I feel like people need to have like good organic conversations. And let's say it's quickly like, come over and watch a movie with me. Well, we're just sitting there watching a movie. Like, where's the organic conversation
Yeah.
coming? That comes when you're face to face, not just like sitting side by side.
Mhm.
So when you create those opportunities to just be more intentional of like, yeah, let's meet at a coffee shop, let's meet at a cafe, and just have a conversation and know like can I trust you, am I comfortable with you, and just keep it like I say, keep it public because temptation comes right away, especially when you're in closed doors with
Yeah.
just the other person. And that's something that can really ruin a relationship right away, actually, because it can become physical quickly. It can become only you like the way they make you feel, you like the way they look, you like being close to them physically, but do you even know that person yet? And that's what a good relationship is founded on. It's friendship and really like knowing that person. So definitely like the Netflix and chill thing should not be
I
what people lead with in dating. No.
Yeah, it's completely backwards. So Lori, so when you and your husband, and you don't have to say, you guys specifically, but in general terms, when you guys did reach the stage of allowing each other in each other's space in your homes, what were the boundaries set then?
So the boundaries were basically like I didn't live alone. I had roommates. So it was always like somebody was around in the house. We were never really alone. He lived with his parents and it was the same thing. Like they were around. Um, it was we were both grown. He was living with his parents to save money and stuff like that. I was living with roommates because it's really expensive where I live. So, I wanted to save money too, but it wasn't ever like we're gonna just be alone all the time here, like sleeping in each other's bed or, that kind of thing. It was like you're gonna come over and yeah, we're gonna watch a movie on the couch, or we're gonna hang out and talk. We're gonna cook dinner together. And stuff like that. Like that wasn't like it wasn't like strategically like let's be alone late at night when no one's around and watch a movie and lay all on the couch and
Because then
sleep
the
and like it
temptation
wasn't like
rises.
that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
Okay. When, when there are two people that are attracted to one another, but they have different views on waiting until marriage, do you think that they are able to come to a common ground, or do you think that it's just exile? Like they don't even need to even be in the same space because they have different views. Like one probably doesn't think they have to wait completely until marriage. Maybe they feel like they can wait some months or even a year or so, while the other feels like they have to wait until marriage. So what do you think about that?
I think it can be really tough to date someone with different views on that. I think a lot of times it just doesn't work, or the person who has the desire to wait until marriage usually ends up compromising because it's just very hard because the other person just has that expectation of like, well, we're not going to wait. And people have so many different views of dating, and it depends on like, what are your values? What's your relationship with God? Like, how seriously do you take like sex? Do you understand what it is, what it's for, what it's really about? Because I know, and some people have the view of, well, we're just going to date and we're going to have sex. That's an expectation. And then we're going to get in a relationship. Well, you're my girlfriend. That's what I expect from you. And maybe they see that as that's love. That's to me, that's love. That's being exclusive. Well, the other person was like, well, I love you, but to me, love is you're going to wait for me until you ask me to be your wife. And in those two people, I feel like they'll always have some kind of friction, some type of, there'll always be like something like a tug of war of like, what's really right here. And in my experience, and in just other people I know, it's just so hard to hold that value of waiting to marriage when you're with someone who just doesn't want to. And I'm not saying that person can't ever change. Like if that person is willing to change and maybe they come into the relationship of, you know what, this was my mindset, but you want to wait till marriage? Maybe I'm going to change my mindset. Maybe I am going to respect you enough to do that. And that can totally happen. That happens too. But if you're like dating a guy and you see like he's expecting that from you, and in your mind, you're like, maybe he'll change, and he doesn't, that's really going to lead to heartbreak. So I would say, like, ideally, you want someone who holds your values, and it just makes it so much more peaceful in the relationship.
Okay, that's a good point. Because you already go into it like knowing you disagree on certain like values. So with that, let's say you go into it, and then let's say they started off like on, like you said, they were having sex, and let's say she comes to epiphany, like, you know what, I've been going to church, and I changed my mind and I just want to go into the celibacy route. And then the guy's like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, we've been doing this, so you think you're about to stop? So it's like, how does that work? Because it's like, okay, you want to better yourself, or maybe someone wants to do that to, grow stronger with their relationship with God, or, just strengthen their mind. Or I know some people, they just do fast, all the time. And now with the fast, it could be 3 months, it could be until like marriage. Now they're like, hey, we have to cut that physical part of the relationship off. So where do we go from here? Because it's like, are you willing to comply, or are we gonna have problems? Like, how do you go about that?
I think there's a couple ways to go about it. Like, there might be a time of just separation to figure out, like, is it right for us to continue? Because sometimes the other person really will change, but it takes a while. But, in that sense, it's good to, like, let's say for the person who did decide, I got closer to God and I don't want to have sex anymore, and you're making that decision, to be firm in that decision and pray for that other person, that the Lord lays that on their heart as well. But if that person is like, you know what, no, I'm not about that, like, at all, and that's a problem, then that's a risk. That's a risk that you have to decide, is it worth it to continue, knowing that this still is probably going to be a big temptation for me if I've decided to say no, he still wants to do this. Like, I know a lot of girls find themselves in that situation, and it's really, really hard. And in that sense, sometimes if that person, that man, is really not feeling your decision, you might need to separate and just really rethink, like, okay, is this the kind of relationship I want to be in? Is this what's right for me right now? Taking a break is good. And then if you take that break and you're praying, the Lord will put in your heart what to do if it's time to just let go and walk away. Because there's someone else that is going to be willing to appreciate what you're bringing and what you're saying. Like, that guy who's probably annoyed by that decision, well, there's another guy who's going to love that decision and desire that, and also has made that decision. And like, God knows where that other person is. So I think a lot of ladies find themselves in that choice, and they have a hard time letting go out of fear, out of thinking like, well, I love this guy, I don't want to let him go. Like, what if I'm going to be single forever? What if I don't find anyone that's good as him? But it's like, you have to trust God. Like, he honors you, that you're trying to honor him, and he sees that. So it's like, he has other men of God who have those values. I found myself in that situation like many years ago when I was in my 20s. I was with a man who was just like, we're in the relationship, we're going to have sex, like, whatever. And I just felt so bad about it. And the Lord just kept bothering my heart. And he was just like, you have to walk away, like, because he's never going to change. And he's just holding you back so much. So it was very painful, but I let him go. And I'm glad, because it was years later, but years later, when God led me to my husband, he was that man who was all about purity, waiting on the Lord, respecting me. And like, that's what I needed. But I had to let go of the compromising, and for God to bless me with a better person, basically.
Yeah. It's like the fear of the unknown is so like, oh, it just gets you. And people are so used to, like, what they're set in, and change is always like uncomfortable, right? And I feel like people just stick to what they know instead of taking that leap and seeing what God has for them. And it's interesting you said that about your boyfriend, because like my friend, she was trying to do, we're going to do it together. And she was in the relationship at the time, and she felt like, to a degree, I guess the guy was like, she felt like he was going to cheat on her if she did it. So she like gave into the pressure and, gave him what he wanted, but the end result, it was like he cheated anyway. So it's like, that was just a part of his personality or his characteristics in general, I feel like. So it's like, she kind of put herself on the back seat, or what she wanted to do for God in the back seat, for him to think he would stay or be faithful, when in turn, the same outcome came. So it's like, it's the unknown, right? But it's like so hard to take the leap. But I'm glad you said that, because like it's worth it in the end. It might not be quick. I think we like are in a society where we want immediate gratification all the time. So it's like hard, but thank you, because that really helps with that.
2023, we're not wasting our time, okay?
Oh my gosh. And like I said, I was single now. And so just diving into that, like your blog, I really liked thriving in your single season. Can you speak on that? Because I know myself, I like suffer from like loneliness sometimes. And it's like, dang, it's like, oh, should I like, hang out with a guy? Because I really like, it's easier said than done sometimes, I feel like, right? But it's like, being human, you kind of want that interaction or want that affection. And I think that's really hard for me, because like I'm sitting in my house and like I would like to have a guy over, but also, if I find the guy, is he the right guy? If temptation going to lead to something else? So it's like, can you speak on that? Because I know dealing with loneliness is something really, really hard for me personally.
Yeah. So yeah, I have a blog about singleness and just thriving. And it's about like what I did when I was single to try to thrive, and what I did in those lonely moments too. That's in my other blog post about loneliness, but it's good. I like to encourage single women in that sense, because I remember exactly what that's like, just being home, even on a weekend night, and wishing you had a date or wishing you had someone, and just maybe feeling tempted to reach out to an ex or someone to just kind of waste your time just because you want attention. And I felt like when those times come, sometimes I did give into the temptation, and it just was a big waste of time, like total waste of time. Didn't feel good. And I felt like on this one night in particular that I did feel just so lonely. And I reached out to like an ex, like talked to him on the phone. I just felt like it was such a stupid choice. And I remember getting off the phone and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to read my Bible. Like, I'm just going to read my Bible. And I'm just going to see. And I remember I opened up to Ephesians 6, about the armor of God and standing firm in the evil day when you get attacked. And in that moment, I really felt God showing me, like, you've been attacked today. Like, there's been such a temptation in you to reach out to that guy that you shouldn't be talking to. I took him out of your life for a reason, but I just want you to spend time with me. Like, just get in the word, spend time with me. Like, I'm what you need today when you feel alone. And that was hard, but I was like, okay. So I just kept reading the Bible that night. I just prayed. And I felt like I was being tested. I felt like it was just a test of like, you can go the easy route and you can go to temptation, but you know where that's going to lead. Or you can do what's hard and you can say no to your flesh, and you can just be hungry for God and run after God and just believe like he's going to satisfy you. His word, it says to come to him. He's the living water. His water never runs dry for us. So it's like, he's so much better than that guy that's not even a good guy for you. It's just a temporary fix, temporary attention, temporary makes me feel good, but then it's leading me astray. So what's the point? And I felt like in those times when I was single, when I did resist temptation and just got closer to God, I became stronger. I became a much stronger believer. I began to understand the word better. I began to be stronger in my prayer life, in my prayer closet. I saw the Lord begin to use me in different ways to help others. I started to learn what gifts of ministry he put in my heart. And it was literally just during those times of just saying no to temptation and saying yes to God, just little by little being on the process. And I feel like, yeah, those feelings would still come, but it's like, you have a choice of what are you going to do with those feelings, And so for me, that's how I thrived at being a single, was continuously letting those times of temptations draw me close to Jesus, but also just taking like control over my thoughts and being like, this doesn't have to be like a crappy time of life. Like, this could be a time of joy. This could be a time of satisfaction in thriving in my friendships, thriving in my career, thriving in the church, thriving in maybe mentoring young girls that I see that also seem lonely and tempted. Maybe I can help them, and just asking the Lord, like, what do you want me to do right now when I'm single? Being single doesn't have to be a time of just desiring a relationship and being sad that you're not in one. Like, it can be a beautiful time if you're intentional and just asking God, like, what do you want me to do with this singleness? Because you're only in that season for X amount of time. Like once you get married, that you don't get that season back. You don't. So it's like you want to flourish. You want to find, where can I have joy right now? Is it in serving others? Is it in learning more about myself? Is it in spending time with family? You know, what do I need to do that makes me feel alive? And a lot of in that post, what I read was like, do what brings you joy. Like, where do you feel alive? Is it with family? Go spend time with family when you feel alone. Is it taking a painting class? Okay, go take a painting class when you feel lonely. Like, go do something that's going to be a better outlet for you instead of just like soaking in your loneliness. So I think singleness can be beautiful, you know, and yeah.
Thank you. So
Yeah,
I'm like miserable. Like, oh,
Yeah, Lori, I completely agree with what you said. I did go on a celibacy journey myself. And in that journey, I felt very grounded. I felt very like I was getting closer to God because that was my purpose. And I also felt like other people saw that in me too. And then also just I enjoy and I enjoyed and I still enjoy just that time to myself, like pouring into yourself, like you said, into your career, just self-care, anything, like you said, family, friends, or just yourself in general. Like we spend so much time trying to please other people, trying to, do things for other people, and we forget to like really just pour into ourselves. And I don't think a lot of us don't really know what that really means.
and we're back. Minor setback, major comeback. Okay. So, we were just talking about dealing with loneliness in your blog and finding joy in other aspects of life. And I know Michaela was talking about that and saying when she went on her journey, right, for celibacy, she did find a lot of joy and just was very productive. Um, and I know you wanted to dive into the next question. When you do everything right and it's a different, outcome, we can.
Well, when you do follow that path, and you're taking those right steps, and you find somebody that's doing those steps as well, and you guys feel that God has sent you for each other. So, for an example, Megan Good and Devin Franklin now. Yeah, so they were like, in the public eye, they were everyone's, inspiration, or people idolized them because they were this Christian couple and they did it the right way. And they made, they wrote a whole book. And I bought the book, I read the book, and it was very insightful, very convincing, very, but then now they announced that they have gotten a divorce, and we're just wondering, like, okay, so I guess some people are kind of feeling a little discouraged because it's like, was it God that sent them for each other as her husband and as his wife, or was it mistaken? Because I know that God puts people in our lives for a reason, for a lesson, for our growth. So not necessarily them having to, be there for a lifetime. Sometimes they're just there for a lesson and then they're supposed to just go. So how do we, like, I'm just confused about the whole thing.
And it was sad, to see that too. It's always sad to see Christians divorce. But I mean, even especially a couple that's in the public eye and has a book, I had that book too. I still do. I think it still has great advice in it and good perspectives to learn. But yeah, we saw something fell apart there. And I think there's so much to think about. Like the first thing is free will. So the fact is, maybe that really was a God ordained marriage. But the thing is, we really don't know what happened, rightfully so. It's private. So who knows what really took place there? But God does give us free will to turn away from something that actually is from him. That to say, he's not going to force you to stay in that season. He's not going to force you to keep a blessing he has for you. He will let you walk away if you really, really want to. And I think perhaps that may have been what happened, and that may be what happens in a lot of marriages. And the thing is, marriage is very difficult. Even in the Corinthians, Paul says that many troubles will come on to married people. That's why he even says he was single, and he even says it's better to be single, because the married people will face many troubles. But of course, we know every person faces many troubles. We live in a broken world. None of us are exempt from problems, trials, temptations, and hardships. But what happens when two people get married is you take those vows before God, and it's supposed to be till death do us part. And it's up to those two people to honor those vows no matter what happens. But I think what's happening in our society with celebrities and non-celebrities and, separation, divorces, people aren't really honoring those vows. A lot of the times it's, I just don't feel like I love you anymore. Or, I just don't feel like how I used to in the relationship, and being tempted to walk away instead of working out the problem. Because working out the problem is hard, and sometimes it's very painful. We also know that the devil attacks marriages, especially godly marriages. So there's a lot of spiritual warfare. There's a lot of putting a thought in one spouse's mind that's completely to attack the other spouse. That stuff happens, and it gets really ugly. And marriage is very complex. It's a gift from God. It's beautiful, but it's very complex as well. That's why we have marriage counselors, we have trauma therapists, we have so many things, because even when you get married, things from your past that maybe you thought you were free of can come up in your marriage. And you're like, oh, whoa, I didn't know this bothered me. I don't know this was still an area I was hurting. And it comes in the marriage, and it's up to you to like, what am I going to do about it? Am I going to kind of go into like a toxic behavior type of thing, or am I going to try to get help and healing from God? And I don't know everyone's story. I don't know what happened with Devon and Megan, but I do know, like you said, a lot of us Christians are looking at them like, wow, how did they fall apart? But we have to know, our hope is in the Lord. He is the only one that's perfect. He's the only one that's never going to let us down. And in a lot of ways, we have to have that perspective of, even if I do get married, to know that this man will fail me. He cannot meet every expectation. He cannot fill every void in my heart. He is not going to do everything right. He is still a man. Even a Christian man, even a strong man, is still a man with some kind of sin in his life. So I feel like that goes a lot of into like what makes a marriage work. Two people have to serve each other and understand we're both fallen. We both have sin in our lives. We need to lean on the Lord no matter what to make this work. And it's sad that it doesn't always work. But I think still we have to hold on to hope and not just look at that and think maybe like, oh, you know what, maybe it's not a good idea to be married. Or, you know what, if they couldn't do it, maybe I can't do it. No, just because that happened to them doesn't mean that's going to happen to you. I know people in my church have been married, my gosh, 50 years, and they have a beautiful union. They are serving the Lord. They are serving one another. And it's people like that in maybe your own church, your own community, to have them mentor you and ask them, how do you keep your marriage alive? Like, what's the secret you guys do? So for every marriage that has failed, there's ones that are succeeding, and they have succeeded, and they're continuing to succeed. I would say those are the people you want to talk to them, find out what's going on, connect with them, and pray that when it's time for you to be married, that God's going to keep his hand on your marriage. And as long as you put the Lord first, whatever happens, you're not going to lose, because you have him in your heart, and he's the only one that's going to satisfy all your needs. A man will do that.
Thank you, Jesus. I don't need my tambourine.
I want to know, before you got married and before you even met your husband, what was your husband prayer, Lori? Did you have a husband prayer? Did you pray for your husband and how you wanted him to be? What was your husband prayer?
So basically, like, it was a long time that I had thought of, like, what kind of man do I want to be with? And I remember when I was in like my 20s, I felt like I wrote it in a notebook. Like, I wanted him to have this. I wanted him to be athletic. I wanted him to be a teacher. I wanted him to be a man who loves the word of God. I wanted him to be a man who was would love my family. That was a big one because my family can be difficult. They can be challenging to be around. So my prayer was like, Lord, I need a man who's going to be patient with my family members because there's some stuff going on there. And when you're married, you marry into that family too. So I thought of that. Like, I just want peace, Lord, give me a man who knows how to talk to people well, patient, not easily angered, smart, intelligent, always wanting to learn. Those were like my basic things. I felt like I probably had more, but I kind of let them go because I'm like, what are the most important things here? I did pray physically. I know not everyone does that, and some people find that's very superficial. And I totally get that because I have friends that they're like, it doesn't matter what their culture is or what they look like let go of that. But I prayed for a certain type, and that's exactly what God brought to me.
And we're supposed to
yeah.
be, but we're supposed to be specific in our prayers. So
Yeah.
there
So
you
it
go.
worked for me. And like I said, there's testimonies of people that they're like, no, I didn't focus on that, or I let that go and I got someone else. And that's okay. That's who God had for them. So that's great. But that was in my 20s. And I feel like I got discouraged because I really didn't see that happening. I really didn't. I didn't meet my husband until I was 30. So that was like, it was long and it was hard. But I know when I did meet him, I saw things I was praying for. I saw that he literally is athletic. He literally is a teacher. He literally is patient with my family. And I'm like, he has a lot of qualities I have specifically been praying for. Like, wow. So that was my prayer. So when I turned 30 and I was single at that time, I also fasted for that time. And the only reason I did that was because I felt God told me to do that. It had never come into my mind before to fast for that reason. And that wasn't the only reason I was fasting. It's because I turned 30 and I recognized there were so many areas of my life that needed improvement. There was a lot of unmet goals I had that I felt frustrated by. And I felt the Lord just telling me, like, what do you want me to do in your life this year? Write it down and pray over it. But don't only pray, fast. Take it a step further. So that's what I did. And that year, I met my husband that year. And that was the first time I decided to fast for all these things. But I wrote in that notebook, meet my husband this year, literally wrote it down. And I really felt the Holy Spirit like agreeing with me, like, yeah, that's actually what I want for you too. Let's take this seriously. Let's fast about this. Because in another area, the thing is, marriage does not really run in my family. I come from a family of a lot of single moms. I also come from parents who were divorced. I come from a family where I have older siblings that are still unmarried in older age. So I felt like it was a war of like, I want to be married. I'm a woman of God. I'm serving the Lord. He hasn't come yet. It's been such a struggle for me. What's going on? And I felt like the Lord was like, you have to fast. Like, you actually have to take this seriously this year. And I want you to fast. And I did. And it wasn't like right away. It was like, I think I fasted in February and I met him in like November. But that was how it happened for me. Personally, we're all different, but that's just how the Lord dealt with me in that area.
The power of fasting is so real. It's so real because you're being intentional about what you're doing. So I love that. And you know what? I'm glad that you brought that up. I feel like I've been seeing Jeremiah 29:11 like from the beginning of this year. I've just been seeing it. I got in a birthday card. My birthday is January 5th. And it was in that card. Like, I have the plans I have for you, not to hurt you, but for you to succeed. I've been seeing that everywhere. So I think that's it. 2023. Of that verse. And so yeah. But yeah, I would say like the battle of the flesh and the spirit is so hard. It's an ongoing battle. And what you said too, he's gonna have imperfections because he's still a man. So yeah. I that really resonated with me. So yeah.
All right, Lori, is there anything else you would like to share with us, or just, give the listeners any insight, any advice?
Yeah, I would just say probably the same as before, like, pray to the Lord, like about what kind of man he has for you, and don't settle for a guy who doesn't have your values. I think the most important thing that I had to recognize, like
Mhm.
the moment that I was like, I'm not budging on this anymore, you know, date anyone who's going to challenge these values. I need someone who I'm going to have peace with that honors these values. We're both heading in the same direction. We both want to please the Lord. And that's what God wants for you. So I just wanted to say that to anyone listening, because I know it's very common for women to lower their standards and settle. And, God's going to honor your heart, your obedience toward him. He's going to honor your decision to be pure. So do not give that up for a guy just because of what he says to you, how he makes you feel. Like God has the best for you. Even if you don't see anything happening right now, he's working behind the scenes. Our job as believers is to walk by faith, not by sight. So don't believe that just because nothing's happening now, that you need to go force yourself in a relationship. Wait on the Lord, build that beautiful relationship with God, get intimate with God, and he's going to make you strong so that when you're ready to be a wife, he's going to bring you that good man. And some things that I also try to tell women is just like in your single season, as you build yourself stronger in the Lord, that's going to make you a better wife. Because when you get married, that man is going to need you to fight in prayer for him sometimes. He's going to need you to quote God's word with him when he has a bad day at work, when he's getting spiritually attacked, when things are going wrong. You are his prayer warrior. You are his neck. You are his support. And when you are single and you are strong in the Lord, like that's a gift to give to your husband. So don't just waste the season trying to go out on like 50 dates and like be distracted. Like get focused on the Lord and just pray and trust. He's going to bring you a godly man.
Thank you so much. I took a lot from our conversation. I'm sure Alexis did too. So, yeah, is there anywhere our listeners can reach you
Yes, and
and
anything you're
find you?
working
Any
on too.
platforms you
Yeah.
have?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm on my name there is Lori B. Turner _. So I also have a blog. I also have a coaching website, LoriBTurner.com. So if women won't need one-on-one coaching for like maybe you just got out of a relationship or you want to find your purpose, your passions, and you need help, you need accountability, or help in purity, help in singleness. That is something that I've started and I'm excited about. So definitely working on just coaching women and continuing to write blogs. And definitely Instagram would be the best way to find me.
Right.
All right. Well, any last thoughts, Alexis?
Well, for me, like I said, I just gathered so much, like Michaela said, and it was really helpful because I feel like my mind, I'm more like just if I do this is the result I get, right? So like I like that you pointed out that he's gonna have imperfections and it's gonna be some hardships that'll come along. Because I'm thinking in my head, kind of like with the Megan situation, like okay, I did this right, so don't I like shouldn't I get this? But it's like it doesn't always go the way you think it's gonna go, or the hardships aren't gonna be as present. So I think that really helped me and it resonated with me. Like it's still gonna be, some trials or tribulations after, the I do's. So I really, really, really took from that.
And anything that we know, anything in life that's worth having is hard work. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Any other last thoughts for you, Lori?
No, I like what you said. Anything worth having is hard work. That love, definitely hold on to that because that's what marriage is, and that's what sometimes singleness is. But it's worth it. The both seasons are worth it, and God is good. So thank you.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, all the time,
Uh-huh.
all the time.
Where's the tambourine? Okay. Oh.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We'll let you go. And thank you for being patient and kind with
Yes.
us. And yes, we enjoyed our conversation with you.
Thank you so much, Lori.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate you both. Thanks.
All
Thank you.
right.
All right, bye. So Lori Beth is officially off. So I took a lot from it. When you say Michaela, I took a lot from the conversation. Very eye opening to other subjects. And my final thoughts, I mean, are just it's so many different things she touched on. With the whole like I think I talked a little bit about it, the whole like, expectation. Because it's like if I do this, here's my mind. This is how my mind works. I'm starting to get mad. If I do this for this amount of years and this, I'm expecting this. I'm going to get really mad if I don't get that. But it doesn't work like that all the time. You know, that's a big thing for me because it's like I really have the expectation. Like if I do what I'm supposed to do, I want that. You know.
So you think that man should be that man? And he need to be doing everything Alexis say.
Wait, I didn't say everything I say. Well, you sound controlling. Like, if you don't know, it's not like I'm good. So he's better.
He forgot to take the trash out. It's on now.
Yeah. No, not trash. You know what I'm saying. Like, it's like, okay, like I'll say, like, if I do this, if I do that, I'm honoring God, I'm doing what you're supposed to do, I'm going to be really mad if you cheat on me. Like, I'm gonna be really mad. And my reaction, you know, will be blank. So I'm gonna leave it like that.
But those are valid reactions.
It's just like, yeah, because it's like you do all that work and then it's like you still get the same, you know, outcome. And so it's like for me, like I have so many thoughts I overthink too. So it's like, God, like what happened? Like I thought I did it right. So why did you do that?
Yeah.
But I like how she touched on, well, they're still gonna have imperfections and I'm gonna have imperfections. So you know, we gotta work through that, you know.
Yeah, of course. What I took from it was the whole thing was great. But just her self journey, you know, when we were talking about her being in her loneliness.
Yes.
And really just pulling yourself away and focusing on yourself. When you pour that energy into yourself, that energy is going to come out and then things are going to come to you. So that's what I loved about what she said. And then you know
what I thought about though? I forgot to bring this up, but I thought of Glorilla, the rapper.
Why?
Because they're like, how did you get from that? Because when she talked about fasting has so much power. So Glorilla, she made a post saying that for 3 months she fasted. She was like, she didn't talk to no guys, she didn't drink, she didn't go out. She kind of just, like you said, did what she wanted to do. And she and her friend, they committed to it. I want Michaela to do it with me, guys. Convince her to do it.
I went on my celibacy journey, guys.
Wait.
Me and God, we good. We good. Yes,
but
Lord, he favors me. Okay.
But we can do it again. But
I can do it again.
But after
when
that,
my time comes.
The time is now. That's what I'm saying. See, God told me to tell you. Look at it. How it's working. It's going like this.
I gotta hear myself.
Michaela, you can't pick and choose how you want to hear God. But I'll say that she fasted for 3 months and like she like just cut the guys off, cut this off, cut the drinking off, and she's like, let's see what happens. Do you know after she did that, literally FNF, I'm not gonna say it, but you know what song we're talking about. It blew up. Like literally when she got off the fast, like 2 weeks later. I think she got off like end of March and then like April. I can't remember the exact timeline, but like literally she said that song blew up. So you never know what you can get and what God has in store for you if you just dedicate time to Him. It's crazy because we all have 24 hours, right? You think about it. You have 24 hours. You go to work. You do this. You do that. You do your hobbies. You do that. And it's like, dang, we can't give God like maybe like an hour or something.
Even 5 minutes.
Yeah. It's like if you add it up, if you pray like 5 minutes a day, like you're giving Him what, like 30 minutes for the week? Like we can do that. You know, you think about it like that.
Well,
you know?
With me, I mean, I'm always praying throughout my day.
Yeah.
Like even like if for an example, if a car like slammed on their brakes, now I gotta slam on my brakes. Like I'm like, thank you, Lord Jesus, for like I'm just like just different things I'm praying. Like I always pray over my food. I always pray just anything. And like when I was on my journey and like I said, I felt like I was walking a little lighter. I felt like I was more grounded. And when I told her, I felt like other people saw that in me. I think I told you the story as well, but a lady that was trying to help me, a counselor at IU. She was trying to help me like just kind of guide my path through careers. And she like closed the door and she was like, I'm not supposed to do this, but I want to ask you. She was like, do you believe in God? And I was like, yeah, I do. And then she literally told me, she was like, I see Him in you. Like I could see it in you, and that meant so much to me because I was on that journey, and it meant so much to me. Like I remember her face, I remember her for that. Yeah, it really is worth taking that time off.
Yeah, no, I love that story when you told it to me.
Yeah.
I loved it so much. It was so inspirational. So when you first told the story to me, I was like, that's so beautiful. I was like, let's do it again. Let's go on the journey again. She's like, yeah, no.
I'm not doing it.
She said no. So I was like, wait, you just said all these good factors about it.
Yeah.
And then she don't want to do it again. She's like, well, not right now.
I'm a testimony.
Not tonight. But yeah.
Now I can tell y'all. Now do it.
Do as I say, not as I do, right? At that point. Yeah.
I mean, people go through pregnancy, them, and they say it was beautiful, and I don't want to do it again.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's funny.
No, I would definitely do it again. I gotta stop meeting motherfuckers.
Oh my gosh. Are you gonna cut that off?
Guys, I'm just kidding. I don't just be out here. I'm just saying.
Oh, you know what? Keep it in. It's real. It's real. All right.
Keep it real, keep it true.
Okay, well, thanks again, you guys, for listening and hopefully relating. I mean, okay.
That's a wrap.
Yeah. All right.